Hockey Inside Out. Presented to you by the Gazette and brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome to Hockey Inside Out. I'm Gazette sports editor Stu Cowan with Dave Stubbs, columnist and sports feature writer for the Gazette, and former Canadien Chris Nilan. We've got a new show. We have a new look Canadiens team on and off the ice. 20 years since the last Stanley Cup parade in Montreal. Is this a team that can A, make the playoffs, Dave, and B, maybe win a Stanley Cup?
This team's going to make the playoffs. Have I ever lied to you before? I think they are. I think this is a team that has everything that it needs to win or can at least go to the playoffs. My concern is this team has to remain healthy. There's no question. They've been lucky so far through the first 16 games of this season. There haven't been too many injuries. So if they can remain intact, if they can keep their bodies in shape, I think they can go there. Of course, the Canadiens will have to wangle some kind of a deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs because we all know that the Leafs have the Stanley Cup parade every year, bar anyone else.
Tinfoil cups.
Exactly, tinfoil cups. So, I think the Canadiens are going to go to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I think this city this spring is really going to come alive with how this team does.
Now, Chris, 1986 Stanley Cup winner. You surprised by this team this season? Do you think this is a team that can contend for that 25th Stanley Cup?
I think they can. Health is always a key factor. So far they've shown they have depth. They're good on the blue line. Goaltending has been great. Using the backup goaltender in a few games here to hold them through while Price was out with the flu. And, I see no reason why they can't make the playoffs and then contend. You look at where LA is at this point in the season. And the Canadiens are somewhat ahead of them as far as they're doing. So the team is doing well, and again, health's a big thing, but there's no reason. I think with the depth they have and the showing they've had so far this season that there's no reason why they shouldn't make.
And the Kings finished 8th last season, and anything can happen, right? Once you get into the playoffs.
Second season, you get into the playoffs. I mean, everything is thrown out, right? And the Canadiens, did they have any business to go 3 rounds deep a couple of years ago? A lot of people would say no, but I mean, they came within a couple of games of going to the Stanley Cup final.
Now, you have a Stanley Cup ring from '86. I know you gave it to your dad when you won. I know you got one back. Can you tell us a story about that?
Well, when I got the Stanley Cup ring, we got it at the team golf tournament the next year, and I had been dying to give it to my dad, for all he'd done for me, and I gave it to him. And Serge Savard, who was the GM at the time, came up and said to me that he had heard I gave the ring to my dad. And the following year, after I got traded, I came back in the summertime to do my golf tournament at the Children's Hospital, and he called me at the hotel and said, "Would you come in? And I'd like to talk to you." So I came in and sat down with him, and he had the ring for me. So it was really, it was a great moment. Serge, he was a teammate, a friend, and my boss, who fired me, but, just a good man.
Now, speaking of Serge, he had a lot to do with Marc Bergevin being hired as general manager of the team. Changes on and off days, a whole new culture around this Canadiens team. Dave, you're around the locker room quite a bit. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, Stu. I think the culture of this team is something that's very, very important this year. I think when Jeff Molson sat down with the media and he had a large, full-scale news conference, he sat with Marc Bergevin on one side and Michel Therrien on the other, and he said, this team is about winning. We want to bring the winning culture back to the city. And I think that's been something that's been missing. I think that for whatever reason, this team got off the rails. And I think what we're seeing this year is much better respect for what the CH is, what it means. We all know that it's part of the fabric.
Even with Dr. Mulder accidentally stepping on the Canadiens' crest when they were making the pregame speeches.
Exactly right. I mean, that's part of the deal now. The Canadiens have the CH logo very large in the middle of the dressing room down on the floor. In fact, they put a carpet down over that when the media came in, so we don't walk on it. But Dave Mulder actually stepped on it by accident, and Therrien was kind of joking the first episode of 24 CH. He said, we're going to have to fine you for that. So I think the doc got off without a fine, just a warning.
You must have dealt with Dr. Mulder a little bit in your days with the style of play you used to play.
I did. Dr. Mulder is just a great human being. He actually invited me on a few occasions to come in and watch him do his work, and I never made it down there. But he often said that if I come in there, I'd probably faint. Big tough guy like you would faint. So I never got through the door to see it.
You should have been a show and tell project for Dr. Mulder, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
You played against Marc Bergevin. What memories do you have of him as a player, and what was your reaction when you found that he was going to be the new Canadiens GM?
He was a good, solid defenseman, and for all intents and purposes, one of the best team guys who ever played the game. To be honest with you, all his teammates have nothing but good things to say about him. I think it's a wonderful move by the Molson family. and having Serge involved with the decision process. Mark had done his time in Chicago. He started at the bottom, worked his way up. He's a sharp kid. I think he's in touch with today's player. You know, he's
You said he's a pretty sharp dresser
he's
too.
groovy.
You said,
He's groovy.
They said he looked like he got loose with a box of crayons.
I think so. Yeah, it looked like he was in front of an exploding rainbow. But and the thing that I like about Marc Bergevin is he's a blue-collar kind of guy, and I think that translates to his work ethic here. I think when you see Bergevin, what he's doing, the fact that he's not an autocrat. He's not running this team by himself. He's surrounded himself with good hockey people in his hockey operations department, and I think that is translating well. I think that there's a decision-making process that goes into this. Other people are consulted.
One of those people is Michel Therrien. I know at first you were too crazy about him being hired as a coach. What do you think he's done so far, the good and bad that he's done so
Yeah,
far?
I'll be the first to admit I was wrong in my assessment of him, because I was just looking at his past, you know, and I guess that's all I really had to go on. But you know, if anybody believes in second chances, it's me. And you know, I said he was he'll do hire, but he's really shown me that he has changed somewhat. You know, we don't see him
and
calling
he ditched
out
the
players.
mustard coat too.
Yeah, that's the best thing. But you know, he really, I think he's. I knew he would have brought discipline for sure, but how was he going to go about it? Was he going to go about calling guys out like he did in Pittsburgh and embarrassing guys and stuff like that? That doesn't work. Teams turn on you, and I think he's learned from that.
Hooker, the kind of guy you would have liked to play for?
For sure. You know, I like guys that are hard on you, but reward you and hold you accountable.
It's been a good...
I sat alone with Therrien shortly before the season began, and he spoke about the idea. He said work ethic and commitment and dedication, and he kept talking about teammate. And you're seeing some subtle things this year since PK Subban's come back. You know, he's been talking about the team. Carey Price has used 2 different goalie masks so far this year. Both of them have been about the team. They've been about logos.
It's
see no Cowboys.
It's a new look. It's a new team. It's a new day, and we're a new show.
Exactly.
We'll be right back.
Hockey Inside Out. Presented to you by the Gazette and brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome back to Hockey Inside Out. Dave, you were talking about Michel Therrien, the new team concept around the Canadiens. Can you continue on that topic?
Yeah, remember the legendary rant of Michel Therrien with the Pittsburgh Penguins calling out his entire defense corps? Pathetic, soft. He was saying they wanted to be the worst defense in the NHL. Well, I think the new Michel Therrien, the Therrien 2.0 that we're seeing now, is a guy who isn't necessarily going to call out his entire team. He could have been a lot harder. The old Therrien would have been a lot harder on Ryan White for the boneheaded penalties that he took against Ottawa and Buffalo than the Therrien we saw here. But he refused to throw him under the bus. He said, look, this kid's going to learn. He's an important part of the team. The coaches like him. His teammates love him. So here's a guy who really is going to be a valuable part of the team. He was thrown out there for a very important face-off
right at the end of the game. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
so
and he won it, and he got the puck out of his zone.
But Therrien, at the very beginning of the season, when he sat down 2 days before the season began, he talked to me and he said, look, my team is going to be about work ethic. It's going to be about commitment and dedication. And it will not be, I think the first person pronoun, the I, is a word you're not hearing a lot in the Canadiens dressing room this year.
Speaking of I, the PK Subban situation, getting rid of the low fives. We said we're not going to do that anymore after we put out a good sports section.
Exactly. Right.
PK Subban, would you have liked him as a teammate, Chris?
For sure. He's a great hockey player. And, you know, he's matured a little bit over the few years he's been here. And to get rid of some of the nonsense that he did with the low five and all that, you want to temper his personality somewhat, but you don't want it to affect the way he plays on the ice. You want him out there being that, once he was described as a frisky Colt. That's what you want. You want his enthusiasm. You know, sometimes he can rub people the wrong way, but you know what? I think majority of the time he's more of an asset. And that stuff doesn't bother us.
When Hal Gill left this town, we sat down in May and he talked about PK Subban because he had been the mentor for PK, right? He was the guy who was basically put in
Big
charge
brother
of him.
almost.
That's right, he was. And he said, you know what? People are talking about changing PK. You do not change PK Subban. What you do is you keep his eye on the puck. You make sure that he stays focused, that he stays on the rails, that he's going to do the things that he's going to do for this hockey club, but you don't try to change him. I mean, what he does, I mean, all of these larger-than-life things and this giant spotlight following him around, that's what makes the kid who he is, and you don't want to change that.
Another guy you don't want to change is Brendan Gallagher. This rookie's been fantastic the way he plays. He goes hard to the net. Had a concussion. Can he survive playing that style in the NHL at his size, Chris?
I believe so. You know, I look at Steve Sullivan, perfect example. I mean, he's played 17, 18 years, whatever it is. You know, Brendan can skate. He got a lot of speed. He's a feisty kid. Yeah, health is always a question. He has a concussion now. I don't know how bad it was because they're already talking about him maybe coming back. So, you know, he's a tough kid. I'm sure he'll be able to play and be part of this team for years to come.
Who was the toughest small guy that you played with or against in your career?
Stan Jonathan. Yeah, he was solid. Tough guy, and he could play the game too.
He's built like a fire hydrant, wasn't he? I mean, did he look in person like he did in uniform? He just looked like a bowling ball on skates.
Yeah, he was a solid guy, you know, more like a refrigerator. You know, he was wide, and he was tough. He could give a punch and he could take a punch.
Now, speaking of little guys, David Desharnais. Great season last year, first line center. Is he a flash in the pan, or is he somebody who's going to have a long, successful NHL
I don't
career?
think he's a flash in the pan. I think that he's had a little bit of difficulty finding his game. It was a little bit of a struggle, and just the fact that the Canadiens weren't getting what they needed out of that first line. The Cole, Pacioretty, Desharnais line did not pick up where it left off last year. I'm not sure what the percentage was of the offense that line provided for the Habs last year, but it was a ton. So, you know, they didn't get right out of the gate as quickly as they did, but Desharnais still is, there's no question, he's a very good hockey player. He can play the game. It's just going to be a matter of those guys maybe rebuilding a bit of that chemistry, but you know, Therrien has, when he has healthy bodies, he has some parts that he can move around.
Now, Eric Cole's had a slow start, a guy getting on in his career. How hard was it for you, Chris, as you got older into your career to keep the motivation, to keep going, to keep ready to play, and especially with a grueling 48-game schedule?
Yeah, it's tough when you get a little older. You know, you might feel like you're losing the edge a little bit. It's tough mentally, you know. And when I go back, I go back to Desharnais. You know, this town is nuts. I heard them speaking yesterday on the radio about, Desharnais, you know, he's struggling. Is he going to be here now that Galchenyuk is here, and this and that, and Prust, and you know, and Lazella's emerged. He had one game done. Now everybody thinks Lazella's in the Hall of Fame, but they're talking about, well, next year maybe Desharnais could be a centerman on a team like Phoenix and be a number one. I mean, come on. They're talking about getting rid of because he had a slow start. And it's not just Desharnais. It's Cole and it's a whole line. They work well together last year. They're already talking about trading him.
You suggesting this town overreacts, Chris? I can't believe
it. It's just crazy. You know, here's a kid who struggled a little bit, and they're already talking about him playing in Phoenix. Like, come on, wake up.
Well, I mentioned Lars Eller. Lars Eller, first guy in the doghouse this year with Michel Therrien. He was after one game and he sat him out. He seems to have responded, though. Good move.
He has, yeah. And if he plays a good two-way game, and that's what Eller needs to do. And I like the way Lars Eller's play hockey. I mean, he does a really good job. And I think it's important that he maintain his confidence and that he is kept out there, and that the Canadiens will, and that Therrien will use him and continue to show faith in him, because he's a good player. He's a good shot blocker too. He does a lot of things for this team.
Now, Max Pacioretty, a buddy of yours, is this guy human? He's had so many injuries and he just keeps coming back.
Well, you know, he's so physically fit. You know, he pays such attention to detail when it comes to his shape. He eats well. He gets his rest. He's not a bad living guy. And, you know, really, he can respond. And I mean, it seems like he gets these injuries that might keep some guys out, but he bounces right back.
Yeah, that line, you think they'll get it back together, Dave?
I really do. I think they will. I mean, I think you've got to give these guys some time. And the thing that I did like about Therrien at the beginning is he really gave these guys a shot. I mean, we had a coach last year at the beginning of the year where we literally were having this lines juggled.
It's like you put them in a blender, right?
Exactly. It was in some bingo caller wheel. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, you didn't know, and players didn't know. I think I talked to Plekanec at some point and said, have you got any idea how many people you played with last year? I said it was like 15 or 16 different wingers, and he started to laugh. He said, if you hadn't told me that, I never would have known. So, you know, and look at how Plekanec is responding this year on a line with René Bourque and with Brian Giannis.
The first 4 or 5 games, Therrien kept the same lines all along.
It was amazing. You'd see guys sitting on the bench, shoulder to shoulder, and they were talking. You could see them talking on the bench and talking about what they were going to do and pointing things out on the ice.
Yep.
And that's what a line, I think, has to do.
Yep. We'll be right back.
Hockey Inside Out. Presented to you by the Gazette and brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome back. We were talking earlier about some of the changes with the Canadiens this season. One of the big changes was bringing in Brandon Prust. I think he could be a candidate for the team's MVP for the first quarter of the season. What do you think?
So. I think certainly you're going to see maybe, you know, some thought for him being the Jacques Beauchamp Award winner at the end of the year, maybe the unsung hero, because he's a guy, you know, when he was signed for 4 years, $10 million, people were saying, wow, that's a lot of money to pay.
The Rangers offered him 6 for 3.
And you know what? Prust is doing everything that you want from a guy like Brandon Prust. I mean, he's out there, he's in the blue ice, he's in the dirty areas on the ice. He's knocking bodies around, he's defending teammates, and he's a presence every night. When he's on the ice, you know that he's on the ice, and even when he isn't, you know that he's on the bench, and other teams understand that he's on the bench in case they start taking liberties.
You know who he reminds me of? The guy sitting right here.
Yeah.
Similar style. Does he remind you of yourself, Chris?
Somewhat. Yeah, he's somewhat of myself. You know, I think his biggest asset is he'll go where a lot of players are scared to go, you know, or hesitate to go. He has no hesitation when it comes to going in the corners, in the front of the net. You know, the difficult areas. He can handle the puck. He can shoot the puck. He passes well. Look at the play on the winning goal last night. Yeah. And, you know, he has those intangibles. He's a good team leader. Guys like him. He's funny. You know, that's the type of guy you want.
And what's fun is how they actually got him too, because the Canadiens showed up on his doorstep on Canada Day with a Habs jersey with the name Prust on the back, and they said, "We want you on our hockey club." And that was really what sort of tilted the scales.
And he's also got a live-in French instructor. I believe.
Does, yeah. Here's a guy who lives in town. He's not living over on the South Shore close to the rink. He lives in the city. He's around. People see him. He's approachable. And he's just loving life in Montreal. I think he's just really sort of drinking in what the city's all about. It's
Where did you live when you played with the Canadiens, Chris?
Careful with that choice of words, drinking in.
Sipping, Chris. He's sipping the city.
You drink in New York, you sip in Montreal.
Okay.
Where did you live when you were playing with the Canadiens?
I lived downtown for a few years, my early years. I lived at 2021 Atwater, de Maisonneuve. I lived with Eddie Palchek and Chelios and
the
that
stories
building.
in that apartment.
Oh my God, they were unbelievable. I lived in Robert Picard's house one year over in Brossard, and I had to deal with that miserable bridge.
Well, you were the first guy in Brossard, the first hab in Brossard.
You'd be perfect there now. You'd be right at the practice rink.
Finally moved to Kirkland. Mario Grilli built the home for me, and I absolutely loved it on the West Island.
Now, this Canadian teams are talking about Brandon Prust. Are they tough enough? Do they need another enforcer? What do you think?
I don't know that you go out and get an enforcer. I think the era of the one-dimensional guy who is just put out there to fight is gone. I mean, especially the way you see Therrien using. He's been rolling four lines, and while the fourth line hasn't been getting the amount of ice that the other guys are, obviously, what you are seeing with that fourth line is that these guys can go out and put the puck in the net. And so I don't think that you necessarily need to go out and get something. I think that a guy like Prust is there. I think I'd like to see enough grit, maybe a little more grit from a guy like Travis Moen, because, I mean, that was his job before.
And Ryan White, if he can stay out of the doghouse, I think Prust would be a good mentor for him, bringing him along.
Sure. The thing is, Ryan knows how to play hockey. He knows how to play the role. He made a couple mistakes, you know. Shouldn't be hung out to dry the rest of the year for it. He did his time. You know, the coach had him out there last night in the last minute, taking an important face-off. He's one of the only guys who can win draws on this
My
team.
concern about Ryan White, though, Chris, is going to be when Brendan Gallagher is ready to come back, does White go back upstairs? I mean, who sits?
Well, you know, you got to look at the long term here. You know, you get in a playoff situation against Boston. Yeah. Are you going to want Ryan White in there? Yeah. Good possibility you are. And, you know, good possibility someone's going to get hurt again. It's not bad depth to have.
You knew your role. You never needed a coach to tap you on the shoulder. What would have happened if a coach did tap you on the shoulder and say?
I've always said to myself, if a coach ever told me to fight that, and I was on the bench, that I would have grabbed him right by the tie and thrown him on the ice and told him to go do it.
Another too many men penalty.
I think it's the ultimate sign of disrespect. If a coach wants to put you on the ice in that situation, fine. Or if he wants to take you off in that situation, fine. But to tell someone, hey, you go fight, I think it's disrespectful, and I would have never accepted it. I don't care who the coach was.
Yeah. So you're fighting. I know one of your big projects is anti-bullying in school. Talk a little bit about that and how you got involved with that.
Well, I got involved. You know, there's just too many kids dying because of this. You know, committing suicide. A girl down in Massachusetts, Phoebe Prince, an Irish girl. You know, Jamie Hubley in Ottawa. It's just a terrible thing that these kids have to go through, and a lot of times they don't have the ability, and they're so full of fear that they won't speak up, and it's a terrible thing. I go around and speak to schools. I try and empower children, educate, but also empower children to stand up for kids who are so scared to stand up for themselves. And you know, I've gone to so many schools, and it's terrible that we even have to talk about this, but it's so prevalent in the schools today, and I believe we can all do more, from educators to you know, people in politics, politicians, lawmakers can do more.
It's harder than ever now too, right? With the cyber world too. I mean, you have cyberbullying, and that's a huge thing. Yeah, kids are getting pushed around online, and that's where a lot of that problem comes from.
There's a gray area when it comes to the internet.
Speaking of kids, we have Alex Galchenyuk. He's wearing number 27. Members of Shane Corson, Frank Mahovlich. Talked about, does he change back to 94, the number he wore when he was in junior? I know you got number 30, which wasn't a hockey number at the time. How did you get that number, and why did you keep it?
Well, it was a hockey number, but it was a goalie number. And they used it as a call-up number because no goalie had it when I got called up in Montreal. So guys were getting called up and wearing it. And it's funny. When I got number 30, I'm like, I don't want a goalie's number, you know. And my father came up, and he bought a jersey from the Canadiens pro shop. And he got number 30 on it at Nilan. And the guy said, you think he's going to be here long enough for you to wear it? He said, I don't care if he's here for a game or half a game. I'm just glad he's here. And I wanted to change it. My dad told me, don't change it. Take number 30 and make something out of it. And I just think my father didn't want me to change it because he didn't want to buy another jersey.
when Roman Hammerlich came here from Calgary, he was wearing number 4, and I guess Pierre Gervais, the equipment manager, called him and said, what number do you want to wear in Montreal? He said, I want to keep the same number. And there was a pause. He did not. And Pierre Gervais said, I'll tell you what, if you wanted to get a very long step ladder, go up into the rafters, bring down the number 4, I'll give you Mr. Beliveau's phone number. If he's good with you to wear it, fine. So he said, it's 44 taken, and Sheldon Surrey just left it, so that's how Hammerlich wore 44 in Montreal.
Well, number 30, we all remember number 30 in Montreal. Chris Nilan, Dave, Chris, thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed our first episode of Hockey Inside Out.